dedicated to all my beautiful queens, all my beautiful ladies out there. She's a queen. Go queen. You got it, girl. She's a queen. You better represent. Go queen. Go queen. Go. She's a queen about her business. Queen. Working hard on a mission. Yeah. Head high, purpose driven. Purpose driven. Crown on never tilted. Go queen, go queen, go queen, go. Represent, you're a queen, oh.
So thank you guys for watching another episode of the Cute Chat. My special guest today is Miss Hayet Rida, and Hayet has an amazing jewelry line called KHOI, and we're going to talk about her upbringings and how she came up with this amazing jewelry line. It's been worn by some powerful women such as Janelle Monáe, Lori Harvey. It's been seen on anchors at CNN. So I'm definitely interested to talk with her. We're going to talk about my favorite topic, of course, self-love. So how are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you for having me. I put on my cozy outfit because we're about to get comfortable.
Yes, I want you to feel comfortable, and I'm so happy to talk with you. So I want to start off with talking about KHOI. I know like you launched it while you had a full-time job, and this has been something that you put a lot of time into. So we'll definitely dive into some other things. So I want to start off with this wonderful jewelry line and what inspired you to start it.
I think the beautiful story of KHOI is I never wanted to start it. And that's what makes it so beautiful. It started off as a jewelry partnership with a brand. I was supposed to just design, one collection. As an influencer, you do several times. You'll do a collaboration with a brand. And it ended up not working out. And I had a ton of packaging. And so I said, okay, I have so much packaging. I'll just make my own jewelry line until I run out of packaging, and then I'll move on with my life. Because it was kind of like, I'm not going to throw away that much packaging. A year later, here we are. And I think it was the reason why the journey was so beautiful is it really goes, even aligning with self-love. It's initially when I was faced with, okay, I have this much packaging, what am I going to do? I talked myself out of it. I said, you're not a jewelry designer. You didn't go to school for jewelry design, but I'm an artist. I've been an artist since I was younger. So I said, okay, well then, rather than telling myself who I'm not, let's look at who I am and see how we can intersect it with the situation at hand. And that's what made KHOI different. Sculptural pieces, because that's all I know how to do. I don't know how to do simple pieces, as you can see. Like, I think I'm allergic to simplicity. So that's what has built the brand to what it is today, is really out of the box style and just me leaning into pushing myself each collection. So that's pretty much how we got here.
Wow. So I read that you earned a double major in art and communications, and you worked in advertising for like the last 15 years. Yeah. So I know you said it kind of fell into your lap. Did you ever have a desire though, like at all prior to this?
I never wore jewelry. I would say I started wearing jewelry 5 years ago. Like I was always two pearl studs, but I have loved art. Like I've loved art my whole life. My mom, on the other hand, jewelry, that woman has the biggest collection of sculptural jewelry. So I think I also grew up seeing, like my mom has elaborate necklaces and she'll tell you every story about them. So it was around me, but it was not on me, but it was in me. Ooh, look at that. I think it was sort of infused in who I was. So when the opportunity came, I think it had been like, budding. And I think everything about building the brand is sort of a colliding of my background. Like I studied art in college. I actually have I have a bachelor's in photography. I don't shoot often, but those are the things that allowed KHOI to have the most stunning visuals, because as a photographer, it's easy for me to direct other people. I also have a bachelor's in communications. I've worked in advertising for the last, 10, 15 years. So when it came to building a brand, I've built several other brands that we all know today. So it was like, okay, well, let's build mine. So that is the journey that I'm on.
So I also read as well that you have a Ghanaian culture background. Your father is Lebanese as well. Yeah. How have you fused in your culture, and how important is it for you to fuse that in with your brand?
Yes, I was born and raised in Ghana. Ghana is still home to me. Most of my family lives in Ghana. And there's lots of elements of Ghana in there. A lot of the sort of the boldness of it, Ghanaian chiefs and a lot of royalty, some from the Ashanti tribe, which is where, one of the main kingdoms is. And, they are stacked with the jewelry. Like, they don't do minimal. They do not do minimal. And also, even creatively, all our campaigns are shot in Ghana. Like, I'm on WhatsApp directing the shoots. I'm on a Zoom call whilst the shoots are being done. So it was super important with me of like, a lot of times people think you have to move back home to impact culture. And I said, well, I have this big brand here. How do I still impact home? The entire shoots are done by full Ghanaian creative teams remotely. And then also tapping into my father's cultures, I have a full Lebanese name. I've been to Lebanon. I'm sort of, re-deepening those roots. A lot of the names are Arabic as well. So it's sort of like this perfect hodgepodge of African elements. And then, some of my Middle Eastern culture comes to life in the names, like our current collection, Noor, which was just archived yesterday, had a full like Arabic infusion in it. So I'm very proud to bring both cultures inside as much as I can.
That's beautiful. So another thing with your wonderful jewelry line has been seen on celebs such as Janelle Monáe, Lori Harvey, Brandy Evans from my favorite show, P-Valley, and Abby Phillips, Bozoma St. John. So what started from, you having this inclination, like you said, you did not initially have a desire to do this. So what led from just this idea where you needed to just get rid of this packaging to now having it being worn by these amazing women?
I think the beauty is how statement the pieces are. And I think that has what has, I think we've been blessed in sort of like, I haven't really had to, go out and beg people to wear stuff. It's like stylists would be like, wait, what is that? Because my whole thing about KHOI is I always tell the team, if a bunch of girls travel and they take a group picture, I should be able to spot KHOI. So our pieces I should be able to spot it a mile away and say, that's a KHOI piece. And so if that is the ethos of how the brand is designed, stylists and, some of the most amazing women spot KHOI and say, I want that. And, it's super been organic to, lots of stylists reaching out and even a lot of people buying them. Like KHOI will pop up somewhere. I think when Brandy wore it, I was like, how did she get KHOI? Like it wasn't like someone had reached out and said, we want it for her. It was basically like, I was sitting there and some people start tagging me. It's always somebody starts tagging me and I'm like, yeah, wow, that's KHOI. I don't know how that got there, but there it is. So those are like the beautiful moments. You also see people gift KHOI to women who they think are powerful. Mm-hmm. And when I started putting together my manifestation of where I wanted to see KHOI, I said I wanted strong and powerful women like myself. I was like, I want the women who are speaking, are sitting on stages, are going into big rooms, and I want them showing up. Whether they're in a black suit, I need them to have a bold statement piece. And even the assistant to the mayor or the deputy mayor of Chicago was at a press conference, and I'm looking at the thing. I was like, "Is that KHOI?" And she had KHOI on. I was like, that's what I dreamt of. So it's always so beautiful and so humbling every time I see women wear KHOI, and it's also accessible. I mean, most of the pieces are $40, $50, and I think that's what I wanted. Women to feel like you don't need to have $100 million to be able to feel good in what you have on. So I hope I can keep that for a long time.
That's a good tagline, actually, because I think sometimes people are so wrapped up in thinking that they have to spend X amount of dollars to look nice or to look classy when it's really about the style, but I think a lot of times people get wrapped up in pricing thinking,
it's not price. It is not.
And that goes because it's good quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always tell our team, don't ever call us luxury. Like I'll say, do not ever refer to KHOI as luxury. We should never call ourselves luxury. The customer, who we don't even call them customers, we call them, especially in the store, we call them guests. The guests should refer to our experience as luxury. We should never call ourselves luxury. And those are the little things in which I infuse into the team that help deliver the experience. We have a mantra that says excellence is the bare minimum. and I will repeat it over and over again. You know, if let's say there's a tiny leaf on the floor outside of the store, I will ask them, excellence is the bare minimum. Is this excellent? No, it has to go. And that is the standard of, I don't care if you're here spending $20, you should be treated like royalty. So that comes to life not only from the online experience or the packaging, but down to the brick and mortar. I think that's super important to me.
I love that. I want to ask you, what have been some of the particular highlights that you would point out since you've started this journey?
There was one day where, you know, I sit in a bubble. I exist in this little bubble. I'm actually not. I'm very antisocial. I'm very shy. I can do these things. I can speak on a stage, but in person, I'm so shy. And I was in an elevator going to brunch, and I saw a woman in the elevator, and she had KHOI on. So I was being sarcastic, and I said, "I love your jewelry." And she was like, "Thank you." And then I was like, "Where did you get it from?" And she was like, "There's this brand. I think it's Black owned. It's called KHOI." And in that moment, I was like, "Oh, she doesn't actually know that it's my brand." And that was such a beautiful moment, because when you're an influencer, you just assume, and you start a brand, basically it's your audience who's shopping. And I always kept saying, I want, you know, I love my community, and I cherish them, but I was like, I can't wait for the day where KHOI grows beyond my community. Like women who have no idea who I am buy the pieces. And that was so special to me, because I met somebody who was wearing my brand, who literally didn't buy it because, oh, it's my favorite influencer's brand. They probably bought it because they liked it. At that same brunch, when I got off the elevator, just sitting in the restaurant, I saw 2 more people wearing KHOI. Now, those 2 people knew who I was, but in that moment, I just remember I have never let go of how that felt. And then the other highlight was my mom coming to the store opening. So I flew her from Ghana. She started her own store the year I was born. She'd just come off of divorce, and her whole thing was she started a store, and for her to come full circle to cut the ribbon at mine, like I will never forget moments like that. So those were 2 very special moments. It's like, I love when celebrities wear KHOI, and that means the most to me. But sometimes when I see everyday women in the pieces that I create, it makes me so happy.
That's wonderful. I did also read that you like to give back, that that's an important thing for you. What are some of the philanthropic things that KHOI does, and how important is it, of course, for you to give back, especially to your Ghanaian roots? How does that feel, and how gratifying is that as well?
And I think the way we give back is twofold. Digitally, I give back a ton. So I teach entrepreneurs for free. As I'm doing it, I'm just like, this is what you need to know. Here's how to build a brand. Because when I was building this, I built it like no one was teaching me anything. There was no resources. I couldn't even find anything. And so for me, some of my giving back is also, you don't have to buy a $10,000 course. I will tell you for free. Like even when I'm on Threads, I'm saying, and this is how you build a campaign. Here are the 10 things to do. Here's how you pivot. Like that's one part. And then also to Ghana, it's really about empowering the creative community, because a lot of times when you live, when I was growing up in Ghana, everything that was foreign was the best part. You want to go shoot your campaign outside, the country. You want to use the foreign photographer. And then I'm in the land where you would consider the foreign photographer, and I'm like, no, we're going back home. I want to use the people there. And you're giving so many opportunities. Like our current model for the Icon collection, she was actually a follower. She has vitiligo. She's never modeled before, and it's very different in our culture for people to see someone. It's more accepted in the US. But I literally messaged her and I said, will you do me the honor of being the face of the campaign? To help also bring awareness. So it's a lot of emotional giving back. There is financial giving back, but there's also even digital empowering the next generation. I always tell people, copy me. You see a campaign I've done, please copy. Don't feel like you have to thank me or say Hayet inspired me, but I'm like, I am open. Like I even tell jewelry designers, you want to copy my design, do it. I want you to do it because it comes with practice. Try mine and you'll develop yours along the way. When I was in art school, we would use tracing paper when I was learning how to draw. So you put tracing paper and you teach your hand how to draw. And then you develop the muscle to be able to draw on your own. So for me, I tell people, please copy me, copy everything I do. And there's no shame in it. And I think that's where gatekeeping doesn't happen. I tell people, take everything I do and replicate it.
What's your thought on that? Because I know, I feel like sometimes when people want to break into any type of industry, sometimes they come into some roadblocks because they really don't have anyone to ask. Because again, just like you mentioned, gatekeeping, some people really just aren't, generous with offering any information. Like, I don't know, like what their reason behind it may be, but I think that's sometimes, a conflict. Sometimes people really want to reach out to someone with all the sincere intentions, and they don't receive information. So how do you feel about that? Like, how can we kind of maybe overcome those circles to kind of be like our sister's keeper, to give information and not necessarily fall into the whole gatekeeping thing?
And I think that it's a interesting one, because let's say, for example, if someone said, hey, I want to produce jewelry, can you just tell me your producer? I won't tell you, because I'm robbing you of the journey to find the right producer for yourself. Because before I found the artisans who help with the KHOI stuff, I went through maybe 100 and something different manufacturers. But within that journey, I learned about materials. I learned about the process. I learned what to look for, what I like, what I don't like. If somebody had handed me, here's the producer, go ahead, I would have robbed myself off of like so much knowledge, which I learned along the way. So there are some things where I won't say it's gatekeeping, but we have to trust that that journey is going to make us better. Now, when it comes to things of, how do I build a marketing campaign? With that one, I'm like, okay, it's super simple. It comes super simple to me. If it comes simple to me and I know there is no way you can figure this out, or it probably involves you hiring somebody and I can tell it to you for free. Now, what you do with that information is like, you have to still do the work. So I think there is a mix of, sometimes people call things gatekeeping. They're not actually gatekeeping. There's some things that you have to learn along the way. But there are some things where someone can guide you. But I think a lot of times women will fold their arms and say, I need a mentor. And I am so against mentorship. I do not like mentorship. I don't believe in mentorship. I think your mentors should not be there to make things easy or give you the secret. You should take on mentors who you never interact with and watch them and study them. Like when I was building my entire advertising career, I studied Bosma St. John. I'd never met her. I just said, I remember I mapped out, wow, she went from here to here. I listened to every interview she'd done. I observed everything she did, how she spoke about herself, how she walked into rooms. And that in my head was my mentor. But I'd never met her before. I didn't sit down and say, oh, I'm in advertising, I need a mentor. I just said, there's a lot of trailblazers. I'm going to study them. And that is active mentorship. Is I am taking the time to study them, to learn from them. So the day I met her, I didn't ask her to be my mentor. I just said hello and, I thanked her for being an inspiration and I moved on. And she's still somebody I look up to. She wears KHOI now, which is like crazy. But that's why I think a lot of times people cripple themselves by telling themselves, I need a mentor, I need funding, I need this. And you are actually just gatekeeping yourself from your dreams is what it comes down to.
I love it. I love what you said, because I always say that I refer to my mentors, air quote, as the mentors in my mind. Yeah. So I always refer to Issa Rae as the mentor in my mind. And of course I have not, I'll claim it in the future. I would love to meet her, but she's been the mentor for me. And I totally agree with that, because I think that the whole notion of gatekeeping, just like you mentioned, like you're obviously not going to share the name of your producer. And to me, that's not gatekeeping, because I know I've been in situations where someone may ask me certain things and it's like, well, when I figured this out, I had no one to ask. So It's not like, let me also make this difficult for you. But just as you mentioned, I think we have to understand there's a balance in finding certain things for something that you truly believe in on your own, and just running to someone and thinking they're going to give you the entire blueprint to how they built something. That's not even out of being malicious or gatekeeping. it's just, hey, like, I will maybe inspire you on
Yeah,
here's
but
some
I don't.
information.
But you have to understand that we are cultured to in this world where information is so accessible.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't give us information, it's considered gatekeeping,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, she's not sharing. And it's kind of like, I don't want to rob you of the lessons you will learn. And also, if every time you ask, I tell you, you will only learn how to ask.
Mm.
It's one of the things, like my mom is has always been this way. It's sort of like she won't give me money because every time I run into a business issue, guess what is going to happen? I'm only going to learn how to ask someone for money. I will never learn how to be like, I don't have an option. What am I going to do? When I was building the store, I ran out of money. Like, actually ran out of money. Started selling clothes. Like, I started, like, if I could sell the flooring in my apartment, I would have sold it. That's how much I believed in the brand. The day KHOI launched, I wrote a letter to my landlord to explain to him that I couldn't pay rent that day because I was building this brand and I needed a week. Because KHOI launched on July 1st, so rent was due that day. And I knew whatever sales were going to come, I would have it in a week. So I said, okay, to put this thing into, like, I think I had to clear the final pieces from customs, and I needed the exact amount of money that my rent was. And I just remember I had to, even my sister lives in Canada, in South Africa, and she had come to New York, and I flew to see her on miles, and I could not even afford to take an Uber from the airport to her house, but I couldn't tell her because I'm not in a, like, I don't ask people for stuff, but I'll sit in there like, KHOI just launched. Nobody knows. I probably have 87 cents in my bank account and I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to eat what my niece and nephew are eating. Like, it was kind of like, I'm not going to ask anyone. But guess what? I believed in the brand so much, I would do anything for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people are missing. It is, you always see these quotes, how bad do you want it? Oh, I wanted this bad. And I did everything I could. So when you see KHOI everywhere, to me, I'm just like, as it should be, because I put my last sweat and tears in it. And I always tell myself, I deserve it because I worked hard for this. And yeah.
Wow. I definitely agree. It reminds me of that fable about teaching man how to fish. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of just handing something to someone. And it's not, and again, I don't think when people just don't, like you said, we can condition someone to be more comfortable asking instead of working and seeking out something on their own. And I totally agree with that. I wanted to shift because one of the things that is really important to me is mental health. Even in our current issue of the magazine, we have an article about just mental health practices, strategies for small business owners on how they can really cater to their mental health. And I know, just reading on your background, that you have had some dealings with depression on your journey. So I wanted to ask you about that delicate topic. I've also dealt with that as well, PTSD, depression, anxiety. I know, like, these are things that a lot of people are dealing with, and sometimes in silence. They're not comfortable discussing it, or they just, they're going through these battles alone. What has been your journey, and what are some of the things that you've done to cater to your mental health?
Yeah, and I think, first of all, thank you for asking that, and also thank you for what you do around the topic. I think what is beautiful about depression, and I like to speak about it not in this sad and, it's the worst thing, because it's how we speak about things make it easier for people to also acknowledge it. And I think the beauty with depression is it's not that I have dealt with depression. I still deal with it. I have depressive episodes. I've learned how to manage it differently. But, like, I will still have days where I'm not leaving my bed. And I have learned to say, okay, today's just that day. We're not leaving the bed. We're going to be sad today. We're going to just wear sweatpants. And then tomorrow we're going to try again. And especially in entrepreneurship, like, it is the darkest hole you'll ever be in. Because the level of faith you need to is just, I think the best way is, anybody who's listening, you're in a black box and you are pushing forward. And it's not like, oh, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. You have to imagine that one day there could be a light. Do you know how sad that is? To literally sometimes feeling, why am I doing this? Think about something. I was an influencer for 10 years before I built KHOI. I've tried several businesses. Do you know the level of faith you have to have in yourself? You literally, it's like you're trying everything. You're taking risks. You're like, I used to have savings. I have no savings. And you're really just like, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep going. And then, like life comes at you. Like I lost my dad, I lost my sister, I lost my sister-in-law. Last week I lost my grandmother. It's like, and you're still just kind of like, I have to keep going. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm just, one of my closest friends, Kayla, she always tells me left foot, right foot, which means don't worry about what's coming. It's just left foot, right foot. But it's lonely. It's lonely as hell. I even tear up thinking about it. It is the loneliest place. Even when you're building a brand, like there's days where I'm just like, I don't want my phone to ring because everybody who calls me needs something, who need an answer. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be there. And somebody, I just want to be like, everybody leave me alone. but you're also kind of like, I'm on my rocket ship. I cannot stop now. Or like one time I was crying to my partner and I was just like, I just want to be a girlfriend. I don't want to talk about business. I don't want to talk about, KHOI. I just want to be a human. It was just like a thing. And I spend a lot of time alone. More so because sometimes there's this fear that, if anywhere I go, somebody wants to talk about business. Yeah. Or you inspire me. What are your tips and tricks? And sometimes I'm just like, I'm struggling today. I just don't want to speak. So I struggle with it a lot. I'm very solitary. Is that a word? Like I love to sit by myself. I read books. But how do I deal with it? Is I tell myself it's okay. You see the way I just spoke about it? I speak about it and it normalizes it for me. So when I have a bad day, it's a bad moment. My life is not, like I don't push it under the rug. I don't say, smile, it's going to be okay, be grateful. I'm grateful, but today sucks. and I think the more people, even folks who are dealing with someone who is going through a depressive episode, allowing people to feel their feelings. I think as a culture, we tell each other, be grateful, there's kids dying in the world. No, but my day sucks today. Mm-hmm. It's okay. And there's always therapy. But again, when you go to therapy, it's not about going to therapy. Are you opening up? Are you talking about the things? Because we can all go to therapy. It's like going to church. We can all go and show up. But are you actually doing the work when you leave? Is the hardest question. So I think to me, I continue to speak about it. I think what made my depressive episodes worse is entrepreneurship. The uncertainty, the anxiety that comes with it. I'm always anxious. But you have to just learn to regulate. I do a thing called matcha walks, where I take a walk to go buy matcha. I have this obsession with matcha. I literally have matcha right here. So matcha walks became a symbol of I need a moment. So when there's a tough thing going on, my team will know. I'll say, I'm just going to go take a matcha walk. And they know, okay, just Hayet needs to clear her head. Sometimes I need to cry. I need to step away and then I'll come right back. But I had to develop when something's happening, I got to go take a walk. I need matcha. And then, it's my gift to myself. So I think people just find whatever that thing is, as long as it's not like crazy, like drinking or, doing drugs or something. Yeah. But I think you have to find your thing. And your thing could be shopping or whatever it is that gives you a dose of happiness. And your thing could be shopping or whatever it is that gives you a dose of happiness. That's what's going to get through.
You spoke about that really eloquently, and you hit a lot of points. Entrepreneurship coupled with anxiety and depression is it's not the best recipe, because you're already stepping out on faith. And you're right. And I'm so happy that you've been transparent, because entrepreneurship is glamorized and we need to be more raw about it. You start off, you don't have any money, you don't have any support. You have one day when you've made an amazing sale, and then it's crickets. Maybe who knows how long that can be. It's a wheel. It's a hamster wheel,
Yeah.
and it really heightens depression because again, you're riding on faith. And it's a lot. And you're also riding on faith. You may be riding on things where you may not even have a lot of support in your circle because sometimes with entrepreneurs, if they maybe have circles who aren't doing the same journey, they simply don't understand. You've also mentioned too how sometimes you really just don't feel like talking. You know, you may meet a new friend. I know in my instance, I'll meet new friends and like they're so excited to talk about my branding, which is great, but I don't want to talk about this right now because I have personal things that's going on too. And I think sometimes people, they may not understand that, and you have to have that balance. So you've definitely spoken really eloquently about it and very truthfully, which I definitely appreciate. And I wanted to ask you, in addition to your walks, what are some other self care practices, if any, that you do practice, just to take care of yourself and just to have those moments where it can just be yourself and you can relax and not have to be a part of this machine?
My favorite place is the gym. So I lift weights 3 to 4 times a week, and there's just a group of women where you start to see the same people in the gym. And my trainer, Hector, sometimes he's training 2 people at a time. And I've met more friends in the gym. And in the gym, I'm not Hayet. Like, nobody cares. It's, can you lift 25 pounds or 30? Also, are you done with those weights? Because I need them. There's no like, oh, this person, no. And I think that became such a safe space, to the point where if I'm in a bad mood, I will go to the gym and sit there. But I'm going. Like, there's days I walk in and I tell my trainer, I'm not here. And he knows what I'm not here means. It means don't push me today. We're not doing no shit I don't want to do. Just be lucky I showed up. And it's just having that place where I can literally go and interact with humans. And it's not a business conversation. It's not a, can you give me tips and tricks about branding? Can I pick your brain? It's literally like, we cheer each other on. But we're just lifting weights or pulling down weights. And I think that is my place. Literally, I will, even if I'm going for 15 minutes, like, I lost my job a couple weeks ago. As soon as I found out I lost my job, the first place I went to was the gym. I literally read the email, closed the computer, and walked to the gym. And that was like, okay. And then I walked in and, my trainer greets me, how's it going? And I was like, oh, I just lost my job. And he said, okay, go warm up. And that was the most beautiful moment. It was literally like, okay, cool. But since you're here, go warm up. Like, it's not like I don't care, but you're here now. Go and warm up. We have things to do. And like, those are things that help me get through some of my hard moments. So I think to me, that's my place.
Exercise, definitely. I've been doing that recently as well, and it helps relieve stress too. To me, it also is an opportunity when you're lifting weights to just get a lot of any type of negative energy as well that may be inside of your body. Like, you can get it out because it's so empowering. Even like when you work out and you're lifting weights and you're like exhausted afterwards, you're sweating, but you still get like this tinge of energy. So I just think that for anyone that hasn't considered it, even if you just get some weights and just lift them in durations, in different, reps, it really does make a difference mentally doing that exercise. And I just think,
especially when you see yourself getting better, of like, like last week I was doing pulls, and it was the first time I pulled 120 pounds. And I literally was like, I'm about to do this. And I was like, I'm going to give you 4 reps, but I'm going to do it. And just the feeling of I did the 4 I said I was going to do, it does a number on you, because it's also telling you, you set a goal and you killed that goal. So then you walk out with this level of confidence of, then what are the goals can I set? Because I crushed this small one. So now it gives you confidence to do other things outside of the gym of, oh, well, today I'm going to reply 50 out of my 10,000 emails, reply those 50 and feel good. And then tomorrow you add 10 more. And I think that's also what it teaches you.
Yes, I definitely agree. And it's so important to take care of our physical in addition to our mental as well. I want to ask you also, self-love is something super important to me. And just with your experience, self-love is the fuel just to have that confidence and even to be honest with ourselves too, just to take that time for ourselves means that you love yourself enough to say, hey, I'm going to unplug right now. You started this brand. It took confidence in yourself too. I want to ask you, how do you define self-love and what role has it played in your life and also your business journey? How important is self-love to you?
I think self-love is what built all of this, because I started my journey of the internet because I hated myself. That's what started this all. And I remember saying, I'm going to figure out how to love myself and I'm going to document the journey. So that's what started my influencer journey, just talking about being a plus size woman and, learning to love my stretch marks and learning to love like my cheeks. Like, what's crazy? I really still don't like my cheeks. I hate them so much. But I learned to realize that, oh, my cheeks are cute. Like, I think sometimes self-love is acknowledging that I don't like something about myself, but I love that it's still a part of who I am. Self-love isn't like, oh my God, I love every inch of myself. Nobody loves every inch of themselves. Let's stop lying. But it's saying, even if I don't love it, I love that it's still a part of me. Like, I can't change it. It's a part of me. And, even this idea of, there was a saying years ago, which I wrote down in my journal, and it said, Koi no yokan, which means love will come. It's a Japanese saying, and it means love will come. It's basically when you see something, you don't kind of like it, but you just have this feeling that love will come. That's actually where the name KHOI came from. It's literally this idea of, when I started this jewelry brand, it was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but love will come. And in the end, I put an H in there, H for Hayet, because love has come. And I loved KHOI, and that's where the name came from. So that is also self-love, of saying, a lot of times you don't trust that you'll love yourself or you'll love things or you'll love who you're going to become, because we're all going to grow older. Well, we think we just caught up with self-love. Oh, baby, a whole new wave is coming. Once things start wrinkling and we're not spring chickens, our knees are not Meg the Stallion anymore. We're going to go through this whole journey again. But knowing that no matter how much I lose love in myself, it will come back. And that's my journey. I think my beautiful journey in self-love is I allow myself to not like myself a lot of times. I don't pretend or fight it. There's some days I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. But it's saying, and that's okay. That's okay today. I don't have to love myself every day. I'm not a robot. But I know tomorrow will be a better day. And maybe I just got to get my hair braided and I'll love myself again. Or I have to wear my favorite color. Or, I have to, drink matcha and, I'll love myself again. And I think that's the honest conversation we have to have about self-love. It's not this roses and daisies and we all love who we are. And I think we preach this whole love yourself. Nobody loves themselves that much. Let's be honest. And I think the more honest we are, the more accepting we are.
I love how you mentioned, because I think right now we have like something going on where,
a movement.
And also with toxic positivity, and it's like such a slippery slope, because I do think it's important, manifestation, speak life, but we also can be transparent and be truthful. Like I don't like every part of myself, and it does fuel the self-love to just acknowledge what don't you love about yourself, and the most important part, why.
Yeah.
Because that's when you start to look at yourself and you start to analyze and you start to think and you start to do the work. And I love how you mentioned that there's things that you acknowledge that you didn't like about yourself. I think sometimes we're afraid to admit that.
Because somebody is going to say, oh, no, but it's nice. No, I said I don't like it. Leave me alone. Like I said when they say I said what I said. Yeah. And I think toxic positivity is a huge issue, because we tell each other, feel your feelings. But when I'm feeling my feelings, you're telling me not to feel those feelings because you're drowning me in forced positivity. It's okay to say, I don't like something about myself. Right. You can't force me to like it. Like, I got to feel how I feel right now. And that's okay. And I think the more we allow people to feel their feelings, number one, we're not going to be sunken in depressive episodes. And when we do have depressive episodes, because we're not drowning in toxic positivity, like it's going to be okay, then we can feel the feelings and then let them and release them and then move on. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm allergic to toxic positivity. I don't like it at all.
Right, because I just think there's a balance. Yeah, we can speak life and we can be positive, but we have to acknowledge our feelings. And I like to use the terminology because I do talk about positivity a lot, but I also make the point to say I don't fart glitter all day either. I have that taste for sure. And I think it's important.
I love my chair.
I just think it's important to let people know that, so that you don't feel like you're gaslighting someone. And like you said, I love how you mentioned forcing the positivity on someone where they're pointing out, hey, I'm having a bad day, or hey, this is a messy situation. Yeah, let them acknowledge that.
Yeah. Don't force them to feel better.
Right. I mean, you can encourage them that, hey, trouble won't last always. Like, you'll get through it. Yeah, but like, don't ever tell someone like, oh, there's other people that have it worse. No one wants to hear that.
I think the best example I heard was I forget who it was. There was a celebrity who had breast cancer, and she had stage 1. And she said the most beautiful part of her journey was her husband didn't say, well, at least you don't have stage 4 or you're dying. He said, you have cancer and it sucks. Let's be sad. And I think that's how it is like, yes, there's somebody who has it worse than me in context of their life, but this is worse for me. It's the worst I've ever felt. Let's acknowledge that. Don't try and tell me it's not as bad as somebody else. I can be grateful that I don't have somebody else's situation, but this still sucks because it's not the norm. And I think we have to let people, if let's say you get a prick on your finger and it feels like the end of the world, let me feel like it's the end of the world. Because it doesn't mean because my hand hasn't been chopped off, I'm not allowed to feel pain. I still feel pain. And I think that is where toxic positivity has to end. We always are like, well, it could be worse. But then every time it gets worse, you tell me it could be worse, sir. So I always just stand with, let's all feel our feelings. And I think that's where health and self-love is. Self-love is feeling the feelings.
Mm-hmm. Right. I definitely agree. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, do you have any words that you can share with people who, with entrepreneurship, as we talked about, there's a lot of highs and lows that people go through. And I think you've been extremely transparent on that journey and things that we deal with just as women, just as people that are trying to do something different. What's the inspiration, I guess, if any, to just stay motivated? Because I mean, like I said, it's really hard, actually. And people only see, like social media is like it's the highlight reel. So people see the highlight reel, but they don't go through the end credits. They don't go through the documentary to show like how this came about. So what words would you have to offer to someone just to encourage them, hey, on their feelings, hey, there's going to be some times the bank account's going to be low. What words would you have to encourage the next person?
And I think how I want to answer this question is I want to teach people. So I'm going to teach them how to fish, not hand them fish. Is I spend a lot of time listening to stories of other founders and entrepreneurs. So I listen to podcasts where I'm listening to the stories because sometimes I need to hear someone's struggle to know that mine is not the only one that has ever happened in entrepreneurship. I study and I train for success because success is a muscle. Once you get it, it doesn't happen once and then it keeps happening. You literally have to keep training to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I think to me, it's be curious about your journey. Be every time something is happening, tell yourself like, the when people say it's happening for me, think about, even in my example, how KHOI started. A deal didn't happen. Could I have sat down and woe is me? I said, okay, failure is my research. Something didn't go well. I am Hayet Rida and I will pivot. And it's this audacity in me that I will always pivot. And how do I get that? Because I heard and listened to stories of other people who pivoted. So no, there's no course you're going to go and buy. There's no mentorship program. There is no female empowerment conference you are going to go to learn the skill of faith. But the only way you can learn the skill of faith is to train yourself to be able to pivot at your hard times. The only way you train yourself is to watch other people do it. So clean your social media, who you follow. If you are only following people who are living this era of soft life, you are going to want softness in your entrepreneurship journey. And baby, it's not soft over here. If you're only following entrepreneurs who are showing the glitz and the glamour, let me tell you, that's not real entrepreneurship. Because I'm not saying those people aren't going through things. They're just not showing you everything. Listen to the story. Surround yourself with people who are like you. When I became an entrepreneur, my circle had to change. Because on a Saturday, I'm not going to brunch. I'm probably drawing or packing orders or writing a strategy. Change the circle around you. You almost have to, when they're planting soil, you make sure everything around it is a conduit to its growth. Everybody does not come with you. So you have to do like a little clean. It doesn't mean you don't like people. You have to surround yourself with the right people, devote yourself to the studying of the craft, and then also train yourself for success, because it will come. But then the next level is, what do you do when you get it the first time? You have to continue to want to be able to get better at it. And I think that's what I want to leave with people, because I think sometimes we go through this savior mentality. I'm going to find a mentor. I'm going to receive funding. I'm going to take this 10-week, $10,000 course where it's going to make me the best entrepreneur. I'm going to take this marketing class. I'm going to go back to school. No, none of those things will train you for what hustle and faith will give you. And I hope they take something away from that. I really do.
Thank you so much for mentioning the circle too, because again, we are what we eat. And again, if you're trying to plant something, you have to be mindful of your soil and how you take care of it. So again, your circle is extremely important. True what you mentioned about social media. Social media, there are some good points to social media. I'm not a huge fan of it, but again, if you wipe down who you follow, because again, we are what we eat in every single sense of that phrasing. What we watch, what we consume, that's who makes or breaks us. So again, if we're looking at false idols, people who don't, and I'm not saying that every person that you follow have to update you on every bad thing that takes place, but we also know people who are only showing that they're making X amount of dollars. That's great. That's wonderful. But that is one element of entrepreneurship. That's not generally the average.
And we're also adults. I think the thing I want to put is, sometimes we're like, well, people should show the real thing. No, you're an adult. You have discernment. Understand this is not real. It's not up to everybody to tell you this is not the real life. You are a whole adult. You can understand that nobody's life is perfect. And so you have to, the same way we filter you have to filter what you see. Like my social media, based off of what I look at, it's motivational quotes, it's stories, it's entrepreneurs, it's finance stuff. So yeah, I can spend all day on social media, but I'm consuming stuff that is good for me because I only allow specific pages within my bubble. Social media is a bubble. I'm going to curate what's in mine. If yours is celebrity gossip and false idols, then that's what you'll believe in.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes, definitely. I 100% agree. Thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed myself. This has been amazing. Before we end everything, tell everybody what is next for you.
We're launching our icon collection, which is probably my favorite because it's me stepping into the confidence of KHOI, and going to open pop-ups. I think I almost let something slip. I had to take a deep breath. I think to me, it's really taking the art to the next level. And I think my favorite part is very soon I just want to start opening doors for other entrepreneurs, training other entrepreneurs by example, of how they can build a brand like KHOI. And I think to me, it's, before I was like, oh, I'm going to make this training program. And I was like, no, I'm just going to do it for free. I think, I think I look forward the more to giving back to women who might be struggling and who might just want that extra push. So those are the things that are feeling exciting in my soul.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell everyone how they can find you, how they can learn more about KHOI, and especially how they can purchase some of your jewelry and how they can follow you on social media, all your contact information.
Yeah, so our website is shopkhoi.com, and that's KHOI. And if you're in Chicago, we have a boutique as well. And then you can find me on Hayet.Rida. All I do is go to the gym on there and show behind the scenes of building a business. So if that's what you would like in your social bubble, more than welcome. But I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. It was like a late night cozy chat with like girlfriends kind of thing. So I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate you so much. Thank you again for this conversation. Everyone who's tuning in, again, this is Miss Hayet Rida. Definitely check out KHOI. And I hope you picked up some great gems from this conversation. This has been a great conversation. I loved every ounce of it. She touched on so many different points. Number one, again, remember, you are what you eat. You have the power to control what you consume, because we live in a very delicate world right now, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Mental health is something extremely important. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a dreamer. You're really trying to create something beautiful on your own, but there is some loneliness that's involved. There are some dark tunnels. And again, God bless everyone they show the glitz and the glam. This is not to take away from them. But from the rawness, there's some moments where, hey, that bank account is not adding up. You may not have that support that you want. And you have some moments because you're a real person outside of the numbers, the marketing, the getting people, the supplies. There's so many other fields with that. And you have to have some level of joy. And there's some lonely moments. So please stay encouraged. And remember, it's okay not to be okay. I always like to stress that. But go love yourself. Take care of yourself, whatever it is you have to do. If you have to shut off, that's okay. If you have to take a break, that's totally fine. If you have to step back, a lot of us are trying to build brands and we're working at 9 to 5. At the same time, it gets hectic. It is okay to take a step back. Do whatever it is you have to do to take care of yourself. Do not hold back. Be unapologetic. Whatever you do, just make sure you take care of yourself. I do hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. You can learn more about Hayet and many other amazing women of color who I've had the beautiful pleasure of speaking with in this wonderful journey of Geaux Queen. Just go to www.GeauxQueen.com. I love you all. Thank you for the support. Make sure you go love yourself.
That must have did this beat.